breaking down the walls. We're breaking free. Yeah, we're breaking free. No more oppression. It's out for liberty. Breaking free. Yeah, we're taking a stand. Freedom's in our hearts. We're reclaiming our land. They try to silence us, but we won't be tamed. Voices getting louder, can't keep us in chains. We got the power, we got the might. Together we can shine, together we can fight. Feel the rhythm in your feet, it's time to stand tall. Raise your voice and shout, we're breaking down the walls. We're breaking free, yeah, we're breaking free. No more oppression, it's out for liberty. Breaking free, yeah, we're taking a stand. Freedom's in our hearts, we're reclaiming our land. They try to silence us, but we won't be tamed. Voices getting louder, can't keep us in chains. We got the power, we got the might. Together we can shine, together we can fight. Feel the rhythm in your feet, it's time to stand tall. Raise your voice and shout, we're breaking down the walls. We're breaking free, yeah, we're breaking free. No more oppression, it's out for liberty. Breaking free, yeah, we're taking a stand. Freedom's in our hearts, we're reclaiming our land. We're claiming our land.
I hate this show. Oh my goodness.
It's tough.
No, I know.
Yeah, pull it out. It's tough.
It's so much. You're famous, and you're not even. You have no idea what's going on.
I mean, come on, when you get an endorsement like that, you have to go with it, right? You know, live stream it to the whole internet. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody that's here live. Welcome everybody live on the internet. This is Are You Smarter Than a Politician? We are coming to you live from the Libertarian Party of Florida convention here in beautiful Daytona Beach. Thanks for having us. We are the only game show that will travel to you if you have contestants. So we're doing it live. We're out on the internet, and thanks for joining us. Like I mentioned, this is Are You Smarter Than a Politician? Joining us tonight is Spike Cohen. He was the vice presidential bronze medalist in 2020, and he is also founder and president of You Are the Power. Welcome, Spike.
Thank you so much for having me. Oh God. Thank you so much for having me on. By the way, for both of you, press this and then wait half a second. Then start. Thank you for having me on. It's always great to be on this show that I've been on for the first time. Thank you.
And I mentioned that Spike is the founder and president of You Are the Power. Spike, tell us about the great work you're doing with You Are the Power.
I would be happy to. At You Are the Power, we find people that are having their lives destroyed by out of control local and state government officials, and we alert the public to it. And then we do this really weird thing where we tell the politicians to stop doing that, and then they stop doing that. We've had a 100% success rate on that, as crazy as that sounds. So if you'd like to be a part of finding politicians who are doing terrible things, telling them to stop, having them actually stop, and helping people who are at their most desperate point in the process, join us by going to youarethepower.net.
Excellent. Great organization. We talk about it all the time on the show. I'm a supporter. You should be a supporter. Donate to You Are the Power at youarethepower.net. Also joining us tonight, the new chair of the Libertarian Party, Stephen Nekhaila. Thanks for joining us, Stephen.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm glad to be back in my native Florida habitat.
So what's going on with the Libertarian Party? We were trending on Twitter. I think Elon Musk wants to be like us. What's going on with the party?
Well, there was a very public falling out between Elon Musk and a certain sitting president. And I just replied and said, hey, Elon, there's already a party that exists that does exactly the things you would like to see. So we're here, got about 750,000 views, and we'll see what happens. I mean, I certainly open my arms to Elon if he's serious about
looking at other options besides the R's and the D's to a pathway to actual fiscal conservatism and liberty. So, yeah.
Excellent.
Stuff going on.
Thanks for being here. Also joining us, our host tonight, Matt Johnson, who is the chair of the Libertarian Party of Florida. Thanks for joining us, Matt.
Thanks, happy to be here.
So what's new with the Libertarian Party of Florida?
As you may have heard, we are doing this thing this weekend called our annual convention. This is where a bunch of us get together and we decide the direction of the state party and elect our officers. Also, I do want to take a moment and recognize someone who recently passed, Lee Corser, longtime member of the party, longtime activist, former director at large, audit committee. He passed due to cancer. So I do want to take a moment and just recognize that. You're here.
Absolutely. Okay, so this is Are You Smarter Than a Politician? Florida edition, as you can tell by our politicians here having their Hawaiian shirts on and their umbrella drinks. I am Free. I am your host. Joining me as always is our producer, Terry Batts. If you're live here and you want to comment and give points and take away points, this is the address to do it from, at Freedom, the number 4, US, the number 4, all. Freedom for us, for all. Also here is Casey Rasmussen. Thank you, Casey, for making the trip all the way across the country to do this with me. I have no idea what you hooked up, but it seems to be working, and I appreciate that. You can follow us on YouTube. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Rumble. We're over 8,000 people joining us live now. So repost this, share this on your favorite social media. This is going to be fun. We have shirts available on freedomsuperstore.com. You can get your Taxation is Theft. My Other Car is a Killdozer. Make Anarchy Great Again. We have lots of shirts available there. Please share this out. So if anyone were to win tonight, they would get the fake Ron Paul trophy, the Ron Paul bobblehead, the Murray Rothbard bobblehead, Mike Johnson's signature cologne, which is Swamp Ass, as well as the Ayn Rand Fountainhead teddy bear. And then we also have the Killdozer Lego.
Real quick, you said if anyone were to win.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility that no one wins?
That happens a lot with
Wow.
us. Yeah. So.
It's completely up to the audience. Really hoping someone would win. Okay.
All right. So here are the rules. I am the government. Whatever I say goes. Scoring errors count. Life isn't fair. Suck it up, Buttercup. Nobody cares. The rules are you can debate each other. If you don't like someone's answer, debate them. You can also veto someone else's answer, taking them out of the running. You can tariff someone else's answer and take their points. And in the true spirit of reaching across the aisle, we have the democratic option where you can redistribute someone's answers. If they worked really hard, gave a great answer, and you want to be lazy and just take their answer, you can redistribute their answer. You start off with negative 500 points because the government gets paid first. Here's how scoring works. The chat controls the score. So you'll see the chat coming online, and you can give or take up to 100 points if you like the contestant's answer. They control the score. So you'll see the chat giving and taking scores. All right. Are we ready to go, gentlemen?
I am as ready to go as I will ever be after hearing that. Yes. Thank you.
This is the lightning round.
Redistribute that answer, by the way.
All right. We'll go to Stephen first. Stephen, should voluntary payments be the only legal source of government funding?
Should voluntary payments be the only legal source of government funding? Well, I'll tell you, I'm a Rothbardian, so I believe, yes, ultimately, I would like to see, ideally, a world where only voluntary governments exist and voluntary contracts exist, and there's a true free market in government if people want to have it. Javier Milei is an anarcho-capitalist. I think ultimately, hopefully one day Argentina will go into a free market completely devoid of overarching government. But yes, my answer is, I believe that would be the ideal we would like to see.
Excellent. Spike, to you.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm really only against the sales tax because I don't think that it's right that every time you try to buy something that the government skims from the top just because you want to buy something. I'm also against an income tax because I don't think it's right that when you earn an income that the government takes from it just because you wanted to go out and work. I'm also against the property tax because I don't think it's fair for you to have to pay essentially rent to the government for something that you already own, or else they'll kick you off your property if you don't pay them, especially when you get older and you're not even working anymore. That just doesn't seem fair. And I'm against tariffs because I don't think that you should be taxed because you chose to buy something from here instead of from here, so I'm against that as well. And so as soon as I find a tax that doesn't involve your money being taken from you against your will under the implicit threat of force against you unless you pay it, then I will support that tax.
That's a great answer, Conrad. I mean, our answer.
You're officially taking my answer.
All right, Matt, new question to you.
Oh, I get a new one.
Yeah, technically everybody gets a new one, but I didn't explain that well. But all right, so Matt, should local governments fund themselves entirely through user fees? Should local governments fund themselves entirely through user fees?
So I'm going to rephrase your question for you and say, should local governments ? And then the answer is no.
All right. Back to you, Stephen. New question. Should property taxes be abolished?
Yes, and you don't truly own your property if you're paying rent to the government to use your property. And I know here in Florida, there's some movement to try to get rid of property taxes to people that are retired. I think that should extend to everybody. We need to abolish property taxes once and for all.
Excellent. Spike, to you, new question. Should all federal gun laws be nullified by the states?
We already have a federal gun law, it's called the Second Amendment, and it says that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So if we are to actually apply the only real federal gun law, then all the other ones, including at the state and local level, are already null and void and should be considered as such. So yes, there should be, other than the Second Amendment, there should be no federal gun laws. It would also mean that there would be no state or local ones, because it doesn't say the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed by the federal government. It says it shall not be infringed. So yes.
Excellent. All right, Matt, to you. Should open carry be legal in all public spaces?
This one is widely debated even among some libertarians, but the short answer is yes. Mr. Cohen here just said all gun laws are an infringement. I should be able to carry wherever, however I feel necessary to protect myself or my family or my property.
Excellent. I'm going to go to the chat for a minute here. Let's see what we got here. All right, of course, scientific libertarians already busting on me. Did I have to make sure my shirt was fully bedazzled? Yeah. Shockingly, there's a lot about the shirt in here. Likes the shirt. Awesome. Minus 100 to Steven. We don't want Elon or his money. Yay, I got it fixed. Free shirt caused the issue. Yep, about the shirt again. Here we go.
Of all the reasons to oppose Elon, it's that he might donate money to the party.
And we wonder.
Horror of horrors.
With free as the government, lose all hope. Yeah, that's fair. 200 to free for looking like Liberace. Yep. 100 to Spike for realizing everyone can lose. Joe Hanoush live and in person. My buddy Joe Hanoush. Joe says 100 to Stephen for including yes into his answer about voluntary funding. Kat's got 200 to Spike for triple taxation. 100 to Matt for making up his own question. Minus 100 to Matt for making up his. No, it's a loss, Matt. It's a loss. You just lost 100 for making up your own question as well. So you're back to zero there. 500 to Stephen for no property taxes. 100 to Spike for specificity. Welcome, Hayden. David Mosgrip, who performed a lovely live set leading up to our hour delay doing this. David says minus 100 to Spike for giving the correct answer. This is why sometimes people lose, Spike. Yeah. 100 to Spike for listing all the taxes. 350 to Stephen for no property taxes. Texas has it 300. I don't know who Texas is. Plus 199 for the middle Casey for speaking the loudest.
What if Texas wins?
That would be funny. I would dig that. We just have a random plus 500. All right. So now you see how the scoring works. It doesn't really work. So yeah. So, all right, Stephen, to you. Should private citizens be allowed to own military-grade weapons?
Hell yeah. I think the Second Amendment by our own Constitution states that if you can bear it, you should be able to own it. That includes rocket-propelled grenades. That includes, anything you can manage. You should be able to own F-15s. I think you can be able to own those. I wanted to go to tactical. I should be able to own one. From a libertarian perspective, I think it's important that the citizenry is accessible to the same level of weapons as the military for reasons. And I think that is one of our, it's a reason for the Second Amendment.
Thank you. All right, thank you.
I already won because I have a wife who brought me water.
There you go.
That's
I also wanted to mention, we worked out some of these 2A questions with Dexter Taylor on a space, and Dexter's in jail in New York, serving 10 years for assembling guns in New York. And so he got on our space when we talked 2A. So these questions came from that conversation. If you want to donate to help Dexter Taylor, that's in my highlights on X. So you can do that. We're rooting for you, Dexter. All right. So next question to Spike. Should there be no restrictions on 3D printed firearms?
there should be no restrictions on any kind of firearms or any kind of 3D printing. So no, both of those things should be completely allowed and unrestricted, and free Dexter Taylor.
Free Dexter Taylor, absolutely.
Free carbon money.
Our friend D, that Liberty Lady, gave 100 points to all three for shooting guns today. What a cool event to have at the Libertarian Party of Florida Convention. Excellent, excellent. And all right, next question. Matt, to you. Should federal agencies be banned from collecting data on Americans? Should federal agencies be banned from collecting data on Americans?
Federal agencies should be banned. Period.
Rephrase the question. You rephrase the question.
I did not rephrase the question. I answered the question.
That is true. That is true. I will allow it. I will allow it. All right, Stephen, back to you. Should the Patriot Act be fully repealed?
The Patriot Act should have never happened. I'm a part of the generation that grew up with the Patriot Act. I was a young man or a young boy, I guess, back in the day when 01 happened and changed the landscape of American politics ever since. And my understanding is there may be some legislation on the table to repeal the Patriot Act. I don't know how far that's gone. But the Patriot Act, the National Defense Authorization Act are all huge affronts to freedom, and to every libertarian should absolutely abhor the surveillance state and everything else that's come out of it, and all the justifications for domestic programs and everything else that's just been terrible. So yes, it should be appealed. It should have never happened, and we should prevent it from ever happening again.
Great answer. Spike, to you. Should all surveillance require a warrant with specific probable cause?
Yeah, I mean, the Fourth Amendment says this, yes. I do think, I think that there should be, and I think that the government's ability to surveil in the first place should be severely limited beyond just, beyond there needing to be a warrant. I think what they can even do in any situation should be limited, because what they end up doing is just doing it illegally and pushing it through the courts, and the judge allows it, and so that should be stopped as well. But no, absolutely, we should be enforcing all of the amendments, including the fourth one.
And Spike, you got 500 points for being forced to translate this bizarre scoring methodology. So good job by you.
That's plus 500 points?
Plus 500.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. We do have a theory that the golf score might be in effect too. So we're not actually sure if we're going for positive or negative, but Kat, 400 to Steve for 2A, 200 to Matt for being a true libertarian and thinking that losing is winning from Andy. Dana gave 100 to Steven for understanding 2A. Sherry gave Matt 100 for data. So lots of scores coming in. We're over 23,000 people right now. So bunch going on here. If we ever figure out the scoring, we'll go even higher, I think. Yeah. So Matt, to you, should data collection by public schools be outlawed? Matt, yeah. Should data collection by public schools be outlawed?
Public schools. So what we're really talking about here is government-funded schools, indoctrination camps. I may not win a lot of, popularity points with the audience. Apparently, yes.
I'm a teacher.
Yes.
But I
But more importantly, government-funded schools should be outlawed.
All right. Back to you, Stephen. Should local governments be able to reject enforcement of federal mandates? Should
local governments be able to,
reject enforcement of federal mandates?
so really, the only thing the federal government should be doing, if it's fit to exist, is to protect our rights as enshrined in the Constitution. So the fact that the federal government is even issuing mandates is above and beyond the Constitution and what the federal government should be doing in the first place, which is very, very little. I think anything else beyond that is a 10th Amendment thing. So states and localities should be actually, can I put an order in while you're done? So absolutely, I think I'll have a Tito's ball if you're feeling. But yes, the local governments should do whatever they can to, and as well as state governments should do whatever they can to deny any kind of mandates coming from the feds, and the feds need to be strained, brought in.
You could have brought me the water that way.
No,
Okay.
no.
Plus 500 points to David Moskowitz.
Yeah, 500 to David for the
Yeah.
500 to David for being the crawling waiter today. Good job. Good job. Points. Points are fiat points. They're not exchangeable for anything of value. So, yeah. So, all right. Spike, to you. Should jury nullification be taught in schools?
Well, yes, and they should be privately funded schools. But yes, they should. I think that a properly functioning jury is sort of a fourth branch of the government. If the legislature, the executive, and the judicial has gotten it wrong, ultimately the people should be the final say in how this is being done. We just saw this in a case, the Hernandez trial, where the judge basically colluded with the DA to make sure that no one heard the reality, the facts that the Hernandez parents were completely innocent of any of the charges that were being levied against them, that they were being accused of abusing their children. There was no actual evidence, and so the judge just didn't allow anything to be heard except the opinion of one doctor. And thankfully, the jury realized the fix was in, and they voted not guilty on all counts. That is jury nullification. And a huge shout out to the all-star hero attorney, Catherine Bernard, who every time the judge would remind the jury that they weren't allowed to hear what they just heard, she'd turn around and say, and I'll remind the jury that according to the Constitution, you are the final arbiter of the truth. So yes.
Love that. Love that. Matt, to you. Should sheriffs have the right to block federal agents from local enforcement?
It's funny that I get this question here in Volusia County, where our sheriff is an uncontrolled, egomaniacal assbag who will parade children on social media for First Amendment issues that he thinks is a crime. Absolutely, sheriffs should be able to refuse to enforce unconstitutional federal laws. Unfortunately, in most cases, they refuse to do so.
Great answer.
Matt, isn't this the same sheriff who has threatened to have people extradited to his county for saying things he doesn't like on the internet?
Threatened? Oh no, he's done it. He flew somebody 2 weeks ago from Washington using taxpayer dime to Volusia County to toss him in jail for quoting the Bible, and he said it was a threat against his life. Not just a threat, but he quoted that it was a credible threat.
Wait a second, Matt. Isn't that a violation of that man's religious freedoms to arrest him and have him extradited for quoting the Bible?
Yes.
Sure is.
Facts.
What's this sheriff's name?
His name is Sheriff Michael Chitwood.
Well, Sheriff, I'm going to have to look up some Bible verses in a minute.
There we go. Let me do a little scoring here. Matt got 100 for data. Chris thinks Matt's on fire. 500 to Matt for no data collection on Americans. 100 to Matt for rephrasing the question correctly. 200 to Steve for the Patriot Act repeal. 300 to Stephen for repealing the Patriot Act. 500 to Stephen for saying the Patriot Act should have never happened. Matt's on fire. Chris is right. 200 to Spike for limited government surveillance. 100 to Stephen for understanding the PA and eloquently describing it. 100 to Spike. 100 to Stephen for having a camera facial recognition box on his face while answering a surveillance question. Oh my God. Oh my God. That's awesome. We're not saving any of this data other than on social media, so it's safe. It's totally safe. Charles is here. Hi, Charles. Karen Ann. We love Karen Ann. 1,000 to Matt. Kat, 200 to Matt. 0 public school data collection. Scientific says, my government indoctrination is forcing me to give minus 100 points to Matt. Resistance is futile. Kat said 100 to Steve for the Gadsden flag in his face. Yeah, we could probably move that.
I can't even fault you for that.
The middle one there. Thank you. Stephen, 500. 500 sound money points to Spike. You can't inflate that. Minus 100 to David for crawling under the table again. Minus 500 to Stephen for bragging about being a young boy when the Patriot Act happened. 200 to Spike for convoluted jury answer. 100 to Matt for jury nullification. There's Freedom Coach. Follow him. Minus 100 for the Volusia Sheriff Chitwood. Plus 300 for refilling the bourbon glass off camera. 26,000 views. That's crazy. 500 for the biblical quote from Spike. Liberty Lady says 100 to Spike since he's about to cyberbully the sheriff. All right. Our waitress David is back. All right, back to it. Stephen, to you. Should homeschooling be entirely unregulated?
Yes, absolutely. I think you should be able to educate your kids however you want. I don't think the government should be able to educate your kids and teach them all kinds of things and be good. The Prussian education system was designed to make good workers and good soldiers. If you want to educate your kids, either put them in private school you trust or educate them yourself. So yes, it should be the Department of Education and all states' departments of education should be abolished.
Talk about a whole lot of.
All right, to you, Spike. Oh, enter scores. All right, so here's where we find out what the damage is here. So let me just get this on the screen here. All right. Oh, I think I need to refresh it too. All right. Usually I have help with this. Obviously, I'm incapable of doing more than one thing at once. So, all right. Leading is Spike with 2,600 points. Second place, Steven, 900 points. And Matthew just behind with 800 points. And of course, as always, the great Mike Decentralized, who blew me off on show number 1, has been penalized yet again. He is at negative 36,996 points. Don't mess with the government, Mike Decentralized. Learn a lesson there. All right. So how do you guys think it's going so far? I'm going to take that as it's going well.
That was just the most spiteful thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, yes, that was great.
Oh, yeah. We don't.
Plus 1,000.
Yeah.
Nobody got lost points for crawling.
Yeah. I think he lost and gained points both for crawling. So it was a wash. All right. Back to it here. Who was next? I don't even remember. Spike's next. All right. Spike, should school choice include private and religious schools without government strings?
The government should not be involved in schooling. So school choice is a great step down from the nightmare we have, but it's like saying that healthcare vouchers are a step down from socialized healthcare. We have socialized education, so yeah, school choice is a nice step down, but the ultimate goal here is to take Rome out of teaching your children. I think that it should be a matter of you deciding how your children are being taught. This empowers parents, it empowers students. For that matter, it empowers teachers. I've spoken with many teachers across the country who there's a lot that they can't do because they're having to deal with federal diktat, like the so-called No Child Left Behind laws, that make it exponentially harder for them to actually teach children. So yeah, I think that I guess I'm probably going to get penalized for rephrasing your question and answering it based on that, but I don't think the government should be involved in any way. I think that they have only made it more expensive and worse. They've reached a point where the average employer wants you to have a 2 or 4 year degree because that's the only way they know for certain you can read and spell and be able to add and subtract.
Absolutely. All right, Matt, to you. Should local school boards be subject to recall by parents? Should local school boards be subject to recall by parents?
That's a great question. And I'm going to answer that by saying, first of all, yes, but so should every elected official who abdicates their duty to their constituents who have put their trust in them and wrote their name, checked the box, and given them their vote. That starts at the top in DC at 1600 Pennsylvania, all the way down.
Excellent. Let's go to a couple more comments here. Matt got 500 for outing the sheriff. My son, like father, like son, my son who's sitting here in the front row, mini free, minus 500 to everyone since we're being too generous giving points. So like father, like son. We've got
Government Junior, ladies and gentlemen, Government Junior.
We've got negative 100 to Steve for the flags again, but we solved the flag problem. I swear to God, people, we solved the flag problem. Sherry wants to know why Steven's the only person with the face target. He said some stuff on social media the other day. That would be my guess on that. 100 to Steven for free homeschool education rights. 500 to Spike for convincing me to go back to church. I'm going this Sunday. 100 to Tasha's husband. 200 to Spike for school choice. Yes, 500 to Matt for school choice and zero government control in education. 300 to Spike based anti no child left behind. 100 to Spike for rephrasing the question correctly. So rephrasing can work. It can work. Yeah. So, all right. Back to it here.
My biggest point getter there was getting someone to become a Christian again. So let me try this again. All of you, and this is I'm not speaking on behalf of the party or of my 501c3. This is my personal opinion. all of you should confess Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, repent of your sins, be baptized, and go to church. Thank you. Actually serious about that, but yes.
All right, Stephen, to you. Should Medicare and Medicaid be phased out?
Should Medicare be phased out?
Medicare and Medicaid be phased out.
So yes, not only should it be phased out, I mean, it's one of those things that we pay for from a young age, like Social Security and everything else. That, you know, it's another socialized program. And I can tell you, there's a lot of people that are on Medicare, on Medicaid, that are not getting what they're supposed to be getting based on how much they're paying in taxes. So it's not even a good program. It makes things more expensive because then the government comes in and creates all these middlemen and everything else. It creates there's a ton of regulatory capture in the healthcare industry that makes all these things even more expensive, and ultimately gets kicked to the taxpayer. It gets turned into inflation, and we end up paying for it as taxpayers even more because the government has to fund it somehow. So they borrow the money, and it goes back into a system that doesn't work. The United States is one of the most innovative countries in the world when it comes to just about everything, including healthcare. Let the free market take care of healthcare. Let the free market make it cheaper, just like we make everything else cheaper in the free market. Let there be competition, and you're going to see a huge boom in healthcare like you've never seen before, and much cheaper than you've ever seen before if you open up to the free market.
We got a few more scores here I want to report. Minus 500 to Spike for assuming that a 4-year degree means you can read. And that is our friend and former contestant, the lovely Casey Mosgrip back there. 500 to Spike for common sense, 100 to Spike for thinking he's smarter than the host, 100 to Matt for education, 500 to Matt, local school board subject to recall by parents, and 400 for adding on to the question. Sherry says, I love Matt. Cat, LOL at Mini Free. Yay, Mini Free. All right. Mini Free's getting points. 500 to Mini Free from Mike Decentralized. 100 to Spike for a confession on camera. 10,000 points to Spike. I believe that was also the confession from Mike Decentralized. 200 to Spike for evangelizing. 100 to Spike for sticking it to the turtles with a water bottle. 100 for Medicare phased out, Stephen. And 500 to Stephen for free market. So all over the place. Oh my God. Usually I'm sitting down when I'm laughing this hard. So this is troublesome for me. All right, Spike, to you. Should local clinics be able to operate without state licenses?
Yes, I think that you should be able, I mean, in the era where you can literally find out what the best restaurant is in town by getting these crowdsourced reviews from multiple different sites, I think that, and then in light of the fact that there are so many licensed, duly licensed, legally operating physicians, what is it, the first or second biggest cause of death is malpractice? So the reality is, we've been taught, we've been conditioned to associate licensure with safety, despite the evidence. So yes, I believe that I don't necessarily believe it should exist. I think that that's a big part of the requirement of licensure in general is what leads to the requirement for additional, often not necessary education, which drives up costs. And it's and ultimately it comes down to, is this person good at what they do? And you can find that out a lot more easily. I would be remiss to hear talk about Social Security and Medicare go by without me mentioning the fact that there is a plan right now that exists that's already been scored using CBO type scoring. That it's a plan that would not only pay off all the existing debt and unfunded liabilities, but it would also give you better returns than Social Security. It would give everyone the ability to have free health care, and it would be completely voluntary and completely privately funded, and it would be, and anyone that you did withdraw when you died would be passed on to your heirs. And the site is called Plan for America. If you go to planforamerica.us, you can find out more about it.
Excellent.
That is an absolute great plug.
All right, Matt, to you. Should the free market be the sole determinant of medical access? Should the free market be the sole determinant of medical access?
I mean, the short answer is yes, but do you want your neighbor determining who you get to choose for healthcare, who you get to access? You can only access Advent Health because they're the only ones approved by your neighbors, regardless of whether or not, as Spike mentioned, regardless of whether or not they've got the most, they may not, don't quote me on this, but I'm just, as an example, the most malpractice lawsuits
out of all the practices in your neighborhood. Is that really what we're talking about here?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, the free market should determine everything.
Well, we already know a lot about citizens' flood insurance.
Yeah, we do.
Amen to that. All right. Stephen, back to you. Should the Federal Reserve be abolished?
Hell yeah. You couldn't press that button fast enough. Yeah. Yes, not only should it be abolished, but we need to go back to a true free market, not only in, we need a free market in currency. So, yeah, I mean, legal tender, if the government wants to go back to a commodity-based currency, that's fantastic, but there should be a free market of legal tender. Let Bitcoin, let other currencies compete in the free market, and let's not allow the government to hold the keys to the printing press in this Bretton Woods sort of U.S. hegemony situation that allows them to go $36 trillion in debt, and it's just going to get more and more and more, and the problem's not going to get solved. And the problem is from 1913, it's the Federal Reserve, so yeah, abolish it.
Terry just flagged me down and said we just hit 30,000, so people are liking this. So we're gonna beat last week, so that's pretty exciting. So
30,000 points of viewers.
there we go. I like it. All right, Spike, to you. Should all legal tender laws be repealed?
The government, and I think that I'm not grandstanding off of Stephen's answer here, I think is probably the same. The government involvement in money, in deciding what you can use as money, is a big, possibly one of the biggest parts of the problem, is that they can decide what you can use. And if they can say you can only use this, and also we can essentially print out as much of it as we want, it's like a game of Monopoly where Stephen and Matt are playing by the rules, and they roll their dice, and they are going by the luck of the draw, and they're doing the best choices they can and purchasing Park Place and so forth, and dealing with things as they come. And every time it's my turn, I go to the banker and say, give me $1 trillion more and stick them with the debt for it. That's what the government is doing, and it's not for nothing that you keep seeing this widening gap between those who have proximity to political power, who are becoming richer and richer and richer, and literally everyone else who are not doing nearly as well. And I think that the easiest way to deal with that is to get the government out of money entirely. And even in the past, that still would have been feasible, but now with the advent of technology and things like Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency, there's not any good reason to not have, there's not any, use too many negatives there, there's not any good reason to, yes, we should get government out.
Oh my God.
There's not any good reason not to not have government involved. Thank you.
And I land my plane there. All right, Matt, to you. Should competing private currencies be fully legalized? Should competing private currencies be fully legalized?
Why not? Why not? If I want to barter with my neighbor with 22 LR rounds, why the hell can't I? If you want to barter with chicken eggs from your chickens and your neighbor who has cow meat, why not? Why shouldn't any currency be? The government should not dictate what currency you can use and then back it by absolutely nothing but your children's debt.
There is no good reason not to not
What about Baconator's legal tender? They probably hold their value better than the dollar.
And we trust.
Let's see if quadrupling down on the knots works out for Spike there. Let's go. Let's look at the comments here real quick. 500 to Stephen for free market. 200 to Spike for local clinics without government overreach. 100 to Stephen for local clinics. License does not equate safety. Spike gets a lot of points there. 200 to Matt for getting the tough questions. Casey's taken 500 points for Matt for defending my neighbor with her little yappy dog. 100 to Stephen for abolish the Fed. It was a little yappy dog. We had a little yappy dog, and Matt lost 500 points for defending the little yappy dog. It was what went down there. That would be Casey Moshgrip. Row 4, seat 2 is where that came from. Row 4, seat 2. All right. 100 to Stephen for abolishing the Fed and the Fed. 500 Stephen. Great panel. Absolutely great panel. 200 to Matt and Spike for a side convo in sight language. Spike standing. 200 to Matt for checking his watch at the same time I did. 500 to Spike for grandstanding because apparently that's a thing everyone who isn't a populist is engaging in. 500 for audience laughter. Give it up for yourself, audience. Great job. Here it comes. Yep, 500 to Spike for using a quadruple negative. Yeah, I believe that was a quadruple negative with a twist. I think there was a twist in there. We'll have to go to the East German judge to see how they scored it. All right. Stephen, to you. Should digital wallets be protected from federal access without a warrant? Should digital wallets be protected from federal access without a warrant?
Well, the short answer is yes. The long answer is make sure that if you have a digital wallet, you want to make sure that you are using some kind of BIP and encryption or something like that to make sure that, there's ways that they can't touch it, is what I'm trying to say. So that's the beautiful thing about digital, about Bitcoin, about crypto, is that there's a lot of ways to mask it up. It's not like a bank where they can go in and get records or whatever. Shout out to Monero and Zcash, which is private currencies that do a little bit better job of taking care of the paper trail. But yes, the Fed should not be able to go on your wallets. And for those at home, you can do a really good job making sure they don't even know you have one.
Facts.
All right. Spike, to you. Should central bank digital currencies be outlawed?
So the short answer is yes. The long answer is yes.
But not yes. No, not.
CBDCs should not exist.
Excellent. All right, Matt, to you. Should occupational licensing be banned? Should occupational licensing be banned?
Banned? It shouldn't be required. If I've worked 20 years in construction and I've got 10,000 people that have said, hey, this guy did a great job building this or doing that, that should be enough qualification. The government shouldn't be involved in telling you how you can or cannot earn your keep.
Excellent. All right. Stephen, to you. Should businesses be allowed to refuse service for any reason?
You shouldn't have to bake the cake. So, yes, I do think businesses should be able to reserve the right to not be able to serve a customer for whatever reason. I'm in the fast food industry. Sometimes we also have one of our Wendy's is downtown in Dallas Street. You get a lot of drunk assholes. Sometimes you have to refuse service. Sir, do you really want to be the guy that gets arrested for a Wendy's? Please have your fight outside in the parking lot. So There should be instances when you need to refuse service to a customer. Now, I think a deeper question is, what if it's for reasons that are uncanny? What if the person is gay, or if they're of a certain race, and the owner thinks, hey, I don't want to serve this person. I think the public deserves the right to know who we don't want to do business with. If we agree that, hey, this person doesn't like me for a particular reason that I think is unacceptable, well, I don't want to do business with them either. So it's mutual. We should reward those people with our dollars, and we shouldn't force them to provide a service that we probably don't want them doing for us. I don't know if I want somebody that hates me to change my oil or bake me food. So I don't want to get, it doesn't make any sense. Let the free market reward the people that want to be rewarded by the free market. That's why we have a free market. The government shouldn't say one way or the other.
Excellent. Excellent. Beth, go ahead. You can go. It's your convention. You can just go. There we go. Beth Johnson, the chair of the convention here. Hand to Beth Johnson there. Yeah. There we go. Much better waitress than David Mosgrip. Just throwing that out there. All right, Spike, to you. Should environmental regulations be strictly local?
I think that you can not necessarily have to do environmental regulations if you keep with the standard of the damage that someone causes and then being held liable for it. It's very hypocritical for the government to claim that they are the only ones who are able to protect you against environmental damage, and then turn around and routinely grant immunity to the largest abusers of the environment, even when they directly can be demonstrated to cause environmental harms and health harms and sometimes the ending of people's lives and the destruction of people's well-being with the damage that they've done. So it's a literal fox in the henhouse type of situation when we go, well, we need the government to get involved with making sure that the biggest polluters don't pollute. Of course, when they do pollute, the government helps them cover it up, like in East Palestine. And then if that doesn't work, then they try to pretend that nothing happened. And if that doesn't work, then they grant them immunity and then create a trust fund for the damage that was caused and make everyone pay for it, make your children and grandchildren pay for it in the form of debt, which is just future taxes with interest. But so clearly they should be in charge of this. No, I don't think so. I think literally all you should do is just, if someone has done something that causes demonstrable damage to other people's properties, lives, health, and well-being, then they should be held liable for it. And that should be more than enough. You have actually far more and smarter innovations that would stop there being as much pollution. And in fact, I hope I get points for having the longest answer here, because I really want to drill down on this. There are some libertarians that are still like, yeah, but the environment, it's no different as with anything else. What happens when the government regulates the environment? They create a regulatory agency that is captured by the very people that they're supposed to be regulating, which just screws you over unless you're one of those people that's captured the agency, which you're probably not. And so what ends up happening is the exact opposite of what we wanted. So if instead you allow there to be actual liability, what you would see is that there'd be a lot more regulation, but it would be self-regulation. And so instead of them just complying with whatever the regulations are, they'd come up with actual innovations which would lead to less pollution while still providing better service at lower cost.
Can I get a slide for 2020?
Excellent. All right, Matt, to you. Should all foreign military bases be closed? Should all foreign military bases be closed?
As a veteran who was sent to fight for freedom, TM, or trademark, whatever the hell. The short answer is yes. Yes. Why the hell are we sending our 18, 20, 25-year-olds to die, guard, risk being killed, for people who don't give a shit about us, first of all, and for things that don't have anything to do with us? Why do we have hundreds of bases in the Middle East guarding what? Absolutely. Bring them home. Why are we paying taxes for things that aren't constitutional? Why are we authorizing wars that Congress didn't declare? Yeah, bring them home. We should absolutely have bases only here in America. And our military should only be used to defend our rights. And by the way, that doesn't include someone who came here for a better life.
That clearly we have to protect ourselves against the great threat that is Iran. After all, if Iran was not our greatest threat, why would they put their country right in the middle of all of our military bases?
How terrified you think that part? They put their countries right in the middle of all of our bases in other countries that we don't even live in.
We were always at war with Eurasia.
All right, let's check the scores here. We've got a barn burner here. Steven has jumped out into the lead here with 3,900 points. 100 points behind is Spike, and Matt right behind that with 3,500 points. And Mike Decentralized has fallen further closer to negative 37,000. So. 100 at a time. All right.
You lied to us?
I was very clear about I'm the government, and there will be lying. There will be lying. There will be lying. All right, Stephen, to you. Should foreign aid be completely abolished?
Yes. Foreign aid should be completely abolished. Doesn't matter what country it is, whether it's Egypt, Israel, Taiwan, Ukraine, Uganda, Canada, especially Canada, Mexico, the Bahamas, whatever. It doesn't matter. We should not be giving any of our money to any other country, period. For any reason.
That includes the Conch Republic?
Well, we did ask for $1 billion in restitution, and that's different because when we seceded in 1982, it was because of the Conch Republic Revolution. We declared war on the United States.
History lesson.
Yes, the battle raged on for minutes. We did surrender, but we asked for the federal government to lift the roadblock between Key West, or the Florida Keys, and Miami, and we also asked for $1 billion in restitution. We didn't get the $1 billion, but they did lift the roadblock. So we did win that. We seceded where others failed.
I love how Stephen, an American of Egyptian descent, completely threw Egypt under the bus, but the Conch Republic is our college.
Representing for the Conch Republic. I love it. All right, Spike, to you. Should American troops only be deployed on U.S. soil?
American troops should only be deployed when there is an exigent threat to the American people and the Constitution. So they shouldn't be deployed unless there's a threat. And if that threat is an exigent overseas threat, that's one thing. But I think what's the problem is they're used like pieces in a game of Risk. Except they're real people. They're not pieces. They're not cards or whatever. They're actual human beings. And it's very obvious in the callous way that politicians often talk about the men and women, the actual human beings that are sent over there to fight and often die and go through all sorts of other things while they're there. They talk about them like they are just cannon fodder. So no, they should be deployed for threats and literally nothing else.
All right.
After Congress has declared war.
There it is.
Absolutely. All right, Matt, to you. Should states control their own immigration enforcement? Should states control their own immigration enforcement?
See, whoever gave me the points for the hard questions, I expect you to double down here.
Because
Immigration is obviously a huge debate right now. So I'm going to take it a step further, and I'm going to say property owners should control immigration. If you don't own property, or you're not supposed to own property because you're the federal government, keep your nose out of it.
All right.
minus 100.
Let me jump to some comments here.
Wait a second.
government not being explicitly listed as getting involved in the question of immigration. Who do you think you are? The people who wrote the Constitution?
Distant cousin.
All right. Dana gave 1,000 to the live audience for making this more comical.
Which is only 100, by the way.
100 to Spike for 100 to Spike for digital wallets and for also not giving the short answer he promised. Casey gave 300 to Steven for hiding all of his money for the IRS. Scientific took 100 from David, who's not even on the panel, for being late with his drink order. 100 to Matt for occupational licensing. 500 to Spike for making his head spin with all the negatives. 100 to Steven, reserve the right. 500 for Spike's long answer. Minus 300 to Steven for not bringing Frosties for everyone. Sharing is caring.
The machine is down, okay? Like, it's not going to shake the machine down.
This isn't a McDonald's, sir. Or this is a Wendy's.
Cat gave 100 for businesses. This is to Steven, businesses' rights to not serve a customer. 200 to Matt for drinking while playing and making everyone else seem cuter. Thank you, Andy.
That's not hard.
100 to Spike for cause and effect environmentalist. 100 for environmental regulations, Spiky Cleese, new nickname for Spike there. Kilburn's got 200 to Matt for kissing his hand twice and pretending to wave to someone.
That was my kid saying goodbye to the night, people. I'm going to take 500 points from you.
Oh my God. Chris gave 500 to.
Whoever insinuated that Matt isn't beautiful. What are we talking about?
Plus 100 to insinuate Spike is cute.
500 to LPF for the open bar. 250 to Matt's right thumb. It's winning so far. Minus 100 to Free for not blaming Palantir for the technical issues. Oh, that was totally Palantir. Yeah. That was exactly it. 1,000 to Spike for not having 5 words or less answers. 300 to Spike for being a good libertarian and calling out other libertarians. Definitely all military bases American, not necessarily slow. Blue Star Mom here, Middle East, heck yes. Go Matt, 1,000. 500 to Matt for closing military bases. 200 to Matt, Monroe Doctrine. 100 to Spike for being confused by the government's actions. 500 to Stephen for anti-snowbacks. 500 to Stephen for abolishing foreign aid, especially Canada. The snowbacks, yeah. That's how you get that maple.
Anyone says, I support snowback coin, okay? I think it's a good currency. That's not financial advice. I just like the coin, okay?
100 to Matt for property owners and 250 to Matt for hoppyism. Hop. Hoppyism. I got it the third time there. That counts.
Points to Matt for knowing your Hans suburban hop is.
The real Triple H right there. Yep. All right. Stephen, to you. Should the U.S. abolish work visa quotas?
Should the U.S. abolish work visa quotas? So, I can say yes. I think anybody who wants to come to the United States who is not a criminal should be able to come here and be able to work. It increases U.S. GDP. It's good. It's their net taxpayers. There's less crime amongst immigrants than the general population. There's a lot of good reasons to allow work visas in the United States. Going a step further, I would also say it's easier to cross the Rio Grande than it is to climb Mount bureaucracy. So in other words, it's a lot easier to come here legally or overstay a visa than it is to actually come here legally. Back in the day, my great-grandparents came here from, well, a mixed race, so my Irish side came here from Ireland back in the 20s to Ellis Island. My great-great-grandfather, he had an underground bar during Prohibition. My Japanese great-grandfather, Shitoka Hiramatsu, he was in Japanese internment camps during World War II. My father, he's from Egypt, and he came here in the 60s from Egypt through, his father worked for Bank of America. I come from a long lineage of immigrants, and I think, you know, I live in South Florida, the Cubans, there's a lot of immigrants down there. We are a country of immigrants. We need to make it easier to immigrate. We also, if we want to secure the border and all that, that's great, that's needed, that's fine, but it's only part of the equation. It's like saying, well, you know, we don't want fentanyl in the drugs, so we're going to close the borders for fentanyl. Okay, cool. There's still fentanyl coming over here. You need to legalize drugs. In the same way, you need to legalize immigration and allow people a clear pathway to become citizens, to work in this country, and to contribute to society instead of pretending they don't exist.
Great answer. On a separate note, we got 200 for the entire panel for showing 3 different levels of hair growth. So Andy with the hair comment. So thank you, Andy. Yeah. All right. Spike, to you. Should deportation be limited to violent criminals only?
I think that, well, yeah, because I think that deportation and punishment should be limited to people who have demonstrated themselves to be a threat. And I want to go a little bit further back. For the first 100 years of this country's existence, under the direction of the founding fathers who actually crafted the Constitution, the federal government wasn't by and large involved in the question of immigration to begin with. It was left, as the 10th Amendment says, to the states and to the people. And then for about another 80-ish years after that, the immigration process that so many people say, you know, my grandparents came here the legal way. The legal process was basically getting here and then getting a simple check to make sure you didn't have TB and didn't have a known criminal record, which they certainly didn't have the kind of records checking they do now. And then they said, welcome to America, and you basically got your citizenship. So sure, there was a process, but it was, Ellis Island was, you know, hardly the nightmare that we have now. And what caused the problems that we see with immigration now are multifold, but they come down to 3 main things. We introduced a welfare state so that people who come here either across the border or through the womb very often are coming and immediately getting signed up for free stuff from cradle to grave. So that was the first problem. The second problem was the US and other governments started destabilizing second and third world countries so that they have to get to a first world country to get away from the constant bombing and destabilization. And then we started banning things and creating black markets, which empower what used to be 2-bit thugs in these second and third world countries to become multi-trillion-dollar cartels that control entire regions of the planet and further destabilize those regions, driving them to other first world countries like the US. So if you stop all those other things, you find that the only people that are going to come here are the very people you would beg to come here. And so in the meantime, yes, I think deportation should be limited to people who are an actual threat.
All right.
Eliminate the welfare state. I want to make that very clear. Getting rid of the welfare state. Not usually a popular answer. This is a unique crowd. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So, you know, you get tongue-tied one time because somebody says hopping or whatever. And, you know, minus 100 to free for pretending you can read. Yeah. Thank you, Impure Hooter or whoever you are. Yep. 100 to free for pretending you can read. All right. So that evens it out. I'm back to 0. Yeah. So 250 to Stephen for providing his entire family history. That's fair. Now I'm not going to read your comment here, Impure Hooter boy. All right. Kat, 100 to Stephen for knowing the word bureaucracy. 500 to Spike for knowing the immigration process that both my grandmothers went through at Ellis Island. All right. Matt, to you. Should students be allowed to record teachers in class? Should teachers be allowed to record students or teachers in class? All right, here we go. Minus 100. I get it. Yada, yada, yada. You think they'd have a better screening process to make up your own game show, you know?
Wait, are there 2 questions there?
No.
Am I getting 2 questions?
You can really answer, at this point, you can answer whatever you want. Yeah. Should students be allowed to record teachers in class is maybe the correct question.
Yeah. teacher agree? This is the most controversial question.
Having their, this is a one-party state. You only have one-party consent. Is that okay?
No, it's not okay. It's not okay. If you're First Amendment, okay, I get it, but then now we're getting into, we're dealing with a teacher in a government-funded school. Maybe. But the answer here is to get you a freaking student out of the government-funded school. That's the answer. That's the answer.
There we go.
You are the parent. You are solely responsible for the education and upbringing of your student. You made that choice when you decided to lay down and conceive a child. And we all, as adults, know that when you do that thing, you run the risk.
Wait a minute.
And if you're gonna have a child, it's your responsibility. So if you don't want your student surveilled, if you don't what? Come on. Oh, sorry. I got you. Sorry, somebody in the audience is covering their child's earmuffs. I'm not going any further into detail for those of you with young ones in the audience.
100 points to Matt for answering his own question.
The answer is the answer. Somebody cut me off. The answer is to just get your kid out of public education. If you're concerned about what the teacher is telling your kid, get your kid out of that flippin' school and take it upon yourself to educate them the way you see fit.
Matt, do you think that students should be able to record their teachers? Well, when a mommy and a dad love each other, then they share a special hug.
And I took a page out of the playbook of the children's next to me where I decided to talk 5 minutes.
Oh my God. So basically, Matt's answer, Matt's mic cut out a little bit there. So Matt's answer was something like this, and then that's basically where he was going with that. So yeah. So all right. Stephen, to you, please. We have children here, Stephen. So please try to keep it clean, especially if it's a question about a school and that, yeah. All right. Thank you. Should whistleblowers be immune from prosecution?
Should whistleblowers be immune from prosecution? Well, it's an interesting question because what comes to my mind when you think of whistleblower, someone like that, Edward Snowden. Yes. Someone who's exposing the government, breaking the law, the people that should be persecuted, not the person who's exposing the things that are, would lead to the government actually being persecuted, which they have not been. So I do hold in very high regard whistleblowers and people within the government who realize that, hey, things are wrong, we want to expose it to the public and reverse it. Whistleblowers should not be persecuted. Whistleblowers should have special protections in some kind of court of appeals or some kind of court of opinion that what they did was right. What Snowden and people like him have done is expose the surveillance state and expose just how many illegal things the government has done in order to go turn the surveillance state inwards towards the American people. And in 10 years, we could have another Snowden when Palantir and all these private companies designed to usurp the Constitution and put it into private hands. The government's not doing it, it's a private company, so it's a quasi-government, private entity that's doing government work. I would like to encourage whistleblowers to come forward. I would hope they're protected. They don't have to go to Russia or other countries in order to feel like they need protection from the United States of America. People like Julian Assange, who have exposed things the government has done through WikiLeaks, deserve special protection. And don't deserve to be used as political pawns depending on who the ruling power is in the United States and what party may or may not benefit from the information being released and who may not. So anyway, long story short is yes, we should protect our whistleblowers and hold them in high regard.
So, but if a mommy and a daddy love each other, yeah, all right. Spike to you. Should protest permits be abolished?
When a mommy has ovaries, then no, yes. Okay, no, my mic is still working. Okay, so, yeah. So, yeah, I don't, the First Amendment, again, should be clear here, that we have a right to petition government for redress of grievances. And so the idea that you should get a permit did my wife give me another?
Yeah,
I'm
I'm the ugly waitress this
Yes,
time.
thank you. I don't think that the government should be deciding, because ultimately then they're deciding whether or not you have a right to say what you think about the government. And the arguments that I've heard against this are, well, sometimes these protests get violent. Okay, so then arrest them for that. Like if they actually damage property, or they're dangerous, or they harm people, or they threaten people, then get them for that. Don't allow the government to limit your ability to speak out against it, or to speak out for it for that matter, because someone else did something that they should be arrested for that specific thing.
Spike, how is the government born?
The devil loves certain people who they share a special kind of love.
Oh my God.
How is a bill made?
A senator loves a congressperson. They share a special kind of hug.
Oh my God. 37,000.
Relationships with lobbyists and politicians have?
When a politician loves a $100 bill, they share a special kind of hug.
Oh my God. Oh. 37,000 people are watching this.
37,000 points to the 37,000.
Oh. All right, Matt.
Come on, if you're watching this.
Matt, try to keep this PG, all right? Your question is, should political parody be protected under all circumstances?
I mean, do we have a First Amendment or do we not? Absolutely. Keeping it clean for the newly minted born again over here. Yes. Why can I not mock a politician? Our founders burned effigies for the people who tormented them. Absolutely.
All right. Let's see here. We got 500 to Spike for the special hug. We got 100 to Matt for confessing his love to Spike in front of 37,000 viewers. 100 to Matt for being the first to hit a 0.3 blood alcohol level. Minus 10,000 to Matt for perpetuating the idea that lying down equals parental responsibility. 500 to Casey for the loud laugh. Do that thing, Matt. 500 for changing the question. 100 to Matt, recording is complicated. Liquor kicking in, LOL. 500 for another stealthy glass of bourbon. 250 to Matt for catching his runway drink. 1,000 to Matt for turning this into a drinking game. In Matt's defense, it was originally a drinking game that turned into a game show, so that's on brand. 20.
I'm used to the swamp creatures where it's at least a 2-drink minimum, just for the record.
2,500 if Matt plays the guitar in front of him. 500 for Matt's awesome slideshow. 100 to Spike for no permits. Oh, this is a lot of words. I'm not going to get any. I'm going to screw this up. Oh, it's to me. I'll read it then. 1,000 points to Free for creating a game show where ovaries and First Amendment are mentioned in the same sentence, and it actually makes sense. It's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, but with vodka. That Steven's here. It's Kevin Baconator. It's Kevin Baconator. Yeah. All right. Back to it. Steven, to you. Should nonviolent crimes be exempt from incarceration?
Should non-violent crimes be exempt from incarceration? Well, it's interesting. So if somebody commits fraud, would that be exempt? I don't think it should. I think there's different types of crimes. There's white collar crimes. I think non-violent drug offenders should be released from prison. I think people who've committed crimes on the books that are crimes, that are non-violent criminals in many different offenses should be released. But in general, I mean, there's different types of crimes. There's white collar crimes, there's fraud, there's threats, there's certain things that I think even in a libertarian society, we could say, yeah, people probably should be held liable for certain things that they do that aren't necessarily violent. But when you violate somebody's life, liberty, or property, then you could be held accountable. If you're not violating life, liberty, and property, then you shouldn't be incarcerated, period.
Excellent. Spike, to you. Should felons have the right to own guns?
But once you've done your time, once you've done whatever your punishment is, then every single one of your rights should be restored. Your right to vote, your right to own a firearm, your right to do business, I mean, anything. Because what we're telling people ultimately is that if you've committed a crime, you can't ever actually be a full citizen again.
Yep.
It is a lifetime punishment for something that ostensibly should have been, treated like, something that you had a short-term punishment for. They're basically giving you a lifetime punishment for it. And I don't see any reason for that, which is also why I'm against this concept of like lifetime parole or 50 years parole or something. If you think that they're a danger, put them in prison. If you have a real legitimate reason to think they're a danger, put them in prison. If they have done damage to someone's property or their finances, then make them pay it back to the best of their ability, even if it takes some time to do that. But as soon as they have suffered whatever actual punishment they need to, let them have their lives back. Every single person here has done something wrong and has actually done many things wrong. Some of us have been caught. I've never done anything wrong, but most people have done something wrong. And most people have just gotten away with it. And so I think we should show grace to people who didn't get away with it and have suffered the consequences of that. Let them have their lives back after that.
The average American commits 3 felonies per day. I do a few more in case somebody's not pulling their own weight.
And Scientific gave Spike 1,000 points for telling us how bills are made. So, yeah.
Correctly for the first time. First time ever. Schoolhouse Rock was lying. Special kind of hope.
All right, Matt, to you. Should all prisons be subject to public audits? Should all prisons be subject to public audits?
This is an interesting one. This is an interesting one because honestly, all prisons should be privatized, first of all. That's not the case. And if they're privatized, well then sure, why not?
Okay.
Then should we end the Fed? Yes. Spike, should we get rid of all gun laws? Yes. Matt, do you think that prisons should be subject to public audit?
Story of my life.
Oh.
It's intentional, I swear.
All right. Now I'm really cringing to see if this is end the Fed. All right, Stephen, to you. Should public health orders require unanimous local council support?
That's a very interesting question. So when we talked about health orders needing local support, well, number one, let's look back in the last 5 years, let's look back in COVID. We had a top-down system where central government knew best. They brought their edicts down into the very local level, and they decided, oh, well, we need to lock down, and, this and that, and blah, 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 blah. You have to have 6 feet between you and the other person, even though they're waiting in line, and you have to have this specific treatment of prophylactic, and only we decide, yada, yada, yada. And it was a federally mandated, well, in some cases it was federally mandated at the state and local level as well. You look back at the Spanish flu back right after the during World War I, things were decided locally. Communities helped each other. Things worked out a little bit better. Anytime government gets involved, you have a system where the central authority thinks it knows best. The World Health Organization put out a treaty that thankfully the United States decided to back out of. The Libertarian National Committee publicly made a resolution against this treaty. It would publicly bind any member state, which by the way, there's many countries involved in this, that the WHO during a pandemic, they would decide what a pandemic is, they would decide who gets to travel where, and they would decide the response, but they also had to decide what was disinformation, and they would go after the disinformation. So essentially this treaty would allow a globalist, non-elected entity to decide many different nations' pandemic response without any kind of representation or vote from the American people or whoever. So yeah, I think that's all very bad idea. I think that the pandemic response should be provided by the market. It should be provided by government. If the government wants to help, they should actually help and not mandate, because as we can clearly see, everything over the last 5 years, from COVID, everything from the 1918 Spanish flu, government did not solve the problem. They made things much, much, much worse. And we're finding that out more and more and more every single year looking back how bad the pandemic response really was. So I don't think we can trust government. They botched everything. They botched testing. They botched, vaccines. They botched X, Y, and Z. We need to let the free market work itself out. If there's a zombie apocalypse tomorrow and, everybody's getting the zombie flu or whatever it is, I'm sure the people would figure out better than the government, whatever the case is. I don't trust the government. The people will figure out the right way to get there. I'm very certain about that. The government should not be involved in pandemic response whatsoever.
All right.
Especially when they create it.
Exactly. All right, Spike, to you. Should OSHA have no authority over small businesses?
OSHA shouldn't exist. I'm sorry. There shouldn't be. There's nothing in the Constitution that says anything about the federal government determining workplace safety. The 10th Amendment is an actual thing that exists in space and time, and it has words in it. And the words are very clear that if there are other words that are in the Constitution that say that the government can do something, then it is to be left to the states or the people. And it's very clear about that. And it is a real thing that actually exists. You can go on the internet right now and type in 10th Amendment text, and you can read it. It's a real thing, and it says it very clearly. And apparently the senators and congressmen are too busy with their special hugs to read the darn thing that they're supposed to be enforcing.
Also, if you actually happen to be present on all of these tables, you can find the 10th Amendment in writing on the tables.
Excellent. All right, Matt, to you. Should localities be free to ignore national emergencies?
Yes. Yes. What constitutes a national emergency? You're gonna get a cold. Stay in your flippin' house and don't go anywhere. Screw you. It's my house, it's my life. If I want to risk a cold, I'm gonna do it. The death rate for this flippin' disease was ridiculous. These people died. What the heck? My bad, my mic cut out.
So a mommy and a daddy.
No, I'm not gonna go into that. A mommy and a daddy have a cold. They can choose to sneeze in the tissue, and everybody else will be fine.
All right.
Ultimately, here the government doesn't get to decide what shouldn't get to decide what I, as a consenting adult, should be willing to risk and what I shouldn't. If I'm willing to risk stepping outside my home in the middle of a hurricane, who the hell are they to stop me? If I'm stupid enough to do that, I deserve what I get.
All right. Now, let's see here. All right. While we're tallying the final points here, we're right at the end. Let's go to a few comments here. Matt got 100 for abso-flippin'-lutely. 1,000 to Spike. If you did your time, your rights must be restored. 200 to Stephen for being the third wheel on this date. 100 to Stephen for recognizing different types of crime. 200 to Spike for the most serious face. Felons and guns, 1,000, restore the rights. 300 to Matt for being the designated driver tonight. 350 to Stephen for having the most rings of power. 1,000 to Matt for all the hard question public audits of the prison system. I wrote at least 2 hard questions. I'd like to throw that out there. Minus 100 to Steve for racially profiling the flu. 100 to Spike for mentioning the Constitution. And for everybody online, yes, it's even better in person. So, all right. Let's go to the final points here. Let's see who won this. Got to refresh this. And Spike, the big winner tonight with 5,500 points. It was a close match. Steven just 200 points behind, 5,300. Matt, a little bit back, 5,000 points. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for doing this. I wanted to give you all a chance to say goodnight and plug what you'd like to plug. I'll start with you, Steven. Thanks for joining us. What are you up to, Steven?
Well, thank you so much for having us on free, and also thank you so much for what you're doing and all the viewers at home tonight watching. I think it's such a cool, positive thing that you're doing the libertarian movement. I'd like to see more of it. I'd like to see this program continue to grow. I'm honored to be a part of it. And for everybody down at home, head over to lp.org, join the newsletter, consider becoming an actual dues-paying member. You don't have to change party registration if you don't want to, but you would be supporting making the country a freer, better place, for the libertarian candidates, getting our messaging out there, spreading the libertarian message, supporting things like Defend the Guard, and I would certainly appreciate it, and I appreciate everybody here at the Libertarian Party of Florida tonight. Thank you all for being here. This is my stomping grounds. And for those of you interested, look up the Concord Republic in our history. We seceded where others failed. We actually did declare war on the United States. We seceded from the Union. You can get your Concord Republic passport to Key West. I do know people that have traveled with it. And you too can join the migration. So thank you. And thank you, Free.
My pleasure. Matt Johnson, you're the host of the event tonight. Thank you for having us. Anything you'd like to say to the group?
Yeah, so first of all, as a member of the Libertarian Party of not only Florida, the chair, but Volusia County. Yeah. Volusia County, this is my home. So thank you for coming. Welcome to Volusia County. All right, thank you. Welcome to Volusia County. I don't know what it is with my finger and the push the talk button, but it's not working. Welcome to Volusia County. If you're here in the room, hit up the bar. It helps out the food and beverage minimum. Tip your bartenders. If you're here tomorrow, look forward to a great day of business. It should be quick and painless, unlike years past. Thank you. That was our rules committee chair right now. He knows better. Welcome. Thank you all. Pri, this has been fantastic. So thank you.
Hey,
thanks, Mike, for holding my mic.
I think actually Matt wore out his finger at the shooting event earlier today, so that's probably the cause there. Spike, you're our big winner tonight. Did you have a good time? Thanks for joining us.
This is the most insane thing I've ever heard. Insane shit. Apparently there's like 630,000 people watching this right now. So if I were gonna, what is it?
40,000.
People are watching this. And I don't know what to say about that. I will just say thank you for tuning in, you 40,000 people. And I love you all individually and as a group. And I'm happy to be here. Huge love to the Libertarian Party of Florida and to the Libertarian Party of the United States of America, including the Conf Republic. And I would like to share a special. No, actually, I'm married, but I'm married, but no, my wife is making sure I'm sharing. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in to this show. Join YourThePower.net. We are getting people free. We are freeing people from the threat of decades of prison. We're having children reunited with parents who are wrongfully accused of abuse. We're getting legislation passed in states. We are getting people their charges dropped when they spoke out against corrupt mayors and city councils. We are getting corrupt officials across the country to resign, often in disgrace, which is fine, disgrace or not, resign. And we're doing all that, and we can do even more with your help. Go to youarethepower.net and sign up today. Thank you.
All right. Awesome stuff, guys. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm a huge fan of all three of these guys. One more time, a hand for these guys. It takes a special sort of courage to go on a made-up game show and subject yourself to this. So just want to say one more time, follow Spike. He is Real Spike Cohen on X. Also, youarethepower.net, probably the best organization out there. Spike, you guys do amazing work. Donate to them, please. And we got Stephen Nekhaila, who's doing an awesome job as the LP chair. Really like what you're doing, Stephen. Huge fan of what all the writing and the stuff you're putting out is just so spot on. And I love that you're being a leading voice in the liberty movement. Instead of waiting and reacting, you're out there on the front lines putting that out there, and that's great stuff. And then Matt Johnson, I love this state of Florida. I love what you're doing with it. Vote for Matt tomorrow. Matt for FL House is his Twitter handle. And thanks for having us, Matt. And thanks to your lovely wife, Beth, for having us, doing a great job with this convention. This was Are You Smarter Than a Politician Florida edition. I am free. Terry Batts is our producer. Thanks to Casey for driving cross country. Thanks to Casey's family for driving with him cross country. They got into an RV for a made up game show and drove from Utah. I mean, that is awesome. So, and we're on YouTube, we're on Rumble, and you can buy our shirts at freedomsuperstore.com. And please share this out one more time. We just hit 40,000 viewers. This is insanity. Appreciate everybody out there in the chat. You make this so much more fun, and sharing it is great. And all the hilarious comments and all the smart comments, we appreciate them all. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody that was here tonight. Appreciate you. Love my Florida people. And have a good night, everybody.